In my last video, I talked very simply and briefly about confidence and how important of a role it plays in your mental preparation in the box. And I think I oversimplified it. You know, just for the sake of time, you do have to have that confidence when you get into the box. Know you're the best. But I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, like, how do you get to that point? How do you build that confidence? And the answer is actually a lot simpler than most think. Although I do think that most players, young players, will assume that confidence is built on results because that's probably where they've found their confidence in the past. But as anyone who is probably watching this video knows, we suck a strong majority of the time in this game. And relying on good results for confidence is not the best recipe for success, right? Because if you're in an 0 for 20, what are we leaning on to be confident, to remember who we are here? Because it's when you are in that much of a hole and a slump, the success feels like it was ages ago, right? It's a very lonely place to be in that position. And you need something that you can lean on in those moments specifically. It's very easy to ride the wave of success and hits, barrels, and feeling good. But it's for those moments. When do I find the confidence in those? And I can only speak from experience. For me, my confidence came from preparation, right? All of the hours put in quiet moments like this, where I was challenging myself and constantly getting better, the relentless work behind the scenes, right? The preparation. Because if you feel prepared, you're going to feel confident, right? It's like if you have a test on Friday and you study every night for 2 weeks, you're going to go into test day thinking like, I'm good, I'm prepared, I got this. I studied every night, I'm fine, let me just trust myself. And it's the same exact thing, right? If you have a game Saturday and you are hitting every single day, you're feeling these things every single day, working on what you need to, getting your feels in, right? Making adjustments, staying in that hitter's mindset every day, you're going to go into that game and you're going to have that confidence that I referred to in the last video, knowing like, I got this, I'm the man, right? I worked so hard for this and there's nobody that can beat me. And you're certainly not going to beat yourself because you're prepared, right? I think, and it's tough because it's easy to understand, hard to do. Unfortunately, that's how, as you climb the ranks of this game, that is how the game weeds people out, right? But it's your job as a player to make sure that there is nobody that is outworking you. If you want to be elite, if you have lofty goals, high aspirations in this game, the work ethic has to match. I always ask kids, like, how good do you want to be? And does your work ethic align with that? And almost every time the answer is no. Because I think there's an understanding of how much work has to be put into this, but it's very hard to do it and do things when you don't want to do them, especially as a kid. There's a lot going on in life. There's school, there's all these responsibilities, there's friends, there's fun. And it is very important to be a kid, lean into those things, because I never did. I was buried in this, and it led to elite success and that confidence that I talked about, but it created a very bad relationship with the game. You need to be able to detach from this, right? Because you can't have your self-worth being intertwined with the results, your place in baseball, and who you are as a player. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person. And that was a trap that I fell into. But, if you can mix that work ethic with being able to step away, detach, shut it off whenever you need to, that's where the success is. Those are the people that can maintain. Those are the players that can keep going, right? To understand that, this is not life or death. This is just a game. This is a kid's game. I can put my work in, and I could do it for me and make sure that I live up to my own expectations and not care what anybody else anybody else thinks or their expectations, but also be able to turn it off when I need to and understand that I am more than just a baseball player. I was never able to do that. And it definitely held me back a bunch. But in terms of if we're just talking success, right? And our confidence and how it impacts our success in the box as a hitter and as a player, it's all preparation. I think I certainly have plenty of regrets about decisions made throughout my baseball journey and things that I could have done differently that would have put me in a better position to get to where I ultimately wanted to be. But there is one thing that I look back on that gives me peace, and that is knowing that I worked harder than anybody throughout the entire process, right? I never let anybody outwork me, and that creates a ton of closure for me after my playing career. And it will for anybody else who stops playing and looks back on their baseball journey and can say yeah, I did everything I could, everything. Nothing was left on the table, and that's big. It's big for your brain as you phase out of this game, especially for people who are really invested in this and kids who are really invested in this. You want to look back with no regrets. But ultimately, the whole point of this video is to really just send the message that confidence is not built through results on the field, but rather what you do behind the scenes, behind closed doors, right? And how often you do it and how committed you are to it. It's very easy to come home from school, go hang out with friends, enjoy life, obviously, but if you are neglecting something that is so important to you, how bad do you really want it? It's a responsibility at that point. Take care of your responsibilities, make sure they're done, and then shut it off and go enjoy life, right? That's what it's all about. If you can balance those things, you can do absolutely anything in this game.